Who is the best villain in the MCU? That's what we're going to discuss on today's show. Hey, it's me, AP, and welcome to another edition of the Saturday Movie Show, ladies and gents. I hope you're all having a lovely Saturday. Saturday's come round again. It's another fast week, another really fast week. But yeah, today on today's show, the main topic we'll be hitting on, deep diving into, is MCU villains. I thought this topic would be, a good one today because Loki has just come out this past week, and big villain Loki. It feels like the right time to do a show discussing this particular topic, but that will be a bit further on the show. But we're going to start the show as we always do with some not so worthy blockbuster housekeeping. The part of the show where we discuss what's going on with the channel, other little things, things I'm up to personally and stuff like that. Let's get to it. So, FYI, this is a show like last week's show. I can't remember I mentioned it on last week's show, but look, it's a Saturday movie show. But I've been lying to you all. I've been lying to you all, conjuring up this plan all along. It's actually Thursday as a film in this. I'm the villain of the piece. I told a lie. It's not Saturday as a film in this, but it is Saturday when you're watching this. I've just got a few things on, filming a few different things, work and just other things as well. So Saturday is a bit jam-packed. It was the same last week. I filmed it, I think it was on the Friday last week, I filmed the Saturday movie show. And, initially I was sort of against doing that, and I think I've mentioned it previously with the scheduling and stuff like that. I'd love to do it live at some point. Just for ease of not editing, but sometimes I was sort of against doing it a day before or not doing it on the Saturday, just in case something major broke out, like some major movie news. And I suppose with this show, we don't go now. We're trying to go for more topical things rather than just like what's the latest movie. Even though we do that sometimes, but I find the more fun shows and the ones what people can watch over and over again are these sort of shows where we discuss like a topic of who's the best MCU villain. But so today's Thursday, and as I said, so hopefully, look, I can see what someone's going to like really, some sort of massive movie news has probably dropped now from either Friday or early Saturday morning, and everyone will be talking about this top big new news coming out, and I'm talking about MCU villains. It'd be just my luck, but hey ho, if that is the case, we'll do it on next week's show, and then I'll probably do that on Wednesday, and then something else will break out. But so I'm doing this on the Thursday, just easier, get it out of the way. So I'm not going to say, as always, I know I start off like really repetitive, and I've realised that now, and this is what I get with like normal conversations with people, where, do you know what, it's a small talk. I'm not really a great small talk person. So my small talk, if someone is not a chatty person, will always go to, the weather. The weather's nice outside and it's looking like a nice day. That will always be my sort of go-to topic. If it's someone who's maybe not as chatty, or maybe I'm just not feeling chatty, that's my go-to, and hopefully something spawns from that. But I've realised that I do it a lot sometimes on the show where I'll say, it's a beautiful Saturday. It's a beautiful Saturday. But now it's not even Saturday. I could say it's sunny today on a Thursday, but we get to the Saturday and it could be thunder showers and all this. So I don't want to lie to you. So I mean, at the moment, it's okay. It's okay. But maybe I've got to improve my small talk. I think that is something I definitely need to improve. Always looking to improve. This past week anyway, I'm, like I said, doing a bit of extra filming for the channel on just some little videos, nothing major, just sort of little add-ons, similar to like the intros I was mentioning last week, just little small improvements that you'll see along the line at some point, and that is what I'll be filming later on today in here. I'm going to dress up the studio a bit and for some little sets and stuff like that. Nothing major, but it's going to be fun to do. As well, I got my jab this week, which was cool, and that was fine. My arm was a bit like felt a bit heavy the first day. I had some paracetamols and stuff like that, and the second day today, I feel much better. I didn't feel any like fluish side effects or anything, thankfully. I know some people say on the second jab they get that, but yeah. So I had that jab today, and it was good, and I'm glad I got it anyway because I think it's just a good thing. I'm just glad I've got it done now. I feel a bit more relieved, even though we've got a long way to go as a human race. But anyway, that's not much to discuss. Again, just as always, thank you very much for watching all the videos over the past week, over the past month. It's been awesome. Oh, another thing as well, we are going to be doing, again, it's the 6 months, so every 3 months we're going to do sort of a big video. And I think I mentioned it, I've got a few different videos planned from a few requests from different viewers on the channel. And I'm also planning to do the quiz again. And I know the first one was the Masters of the Universe quiz. And I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed putting it together, and it was just me, throwing out a load of questions, being a quiz master. And it's just a video you can watch and watch along, join in, give your answers. And I'm thinking of doing that again for the end of this month. I think it'd be cool. It just breaks up the flow of the normal protocol. So instead of like a normal Saturday movie show, it will be the Saturday movie quiz, if you like. I'm still not quite sure what movie I'm gonna go on. I was discussing this with my friend Lee, and he said I was saying I honestly don't know what movies to pick for this month, and so if you've got any ideas of what movies you'd like me to do a quiz on, and it'd be solely a movie, just one movie, do one big quiz on that, like a 50-minute quiz. Let me know your suggestions. I must say, though, it has got to be a movie that I've watched and a movie that I know of, because I will do research, but I really want to know the movie inside and out. I just don't want to pick a random movie that I've never heard of. So if you have any suggestions, though, of a good movie, what would you think would be cool for a quiz? Let me know your thoughts on that. But that is the not-so-worthy blockbuster housekeeping for today's session episode of the Saturday Movie Show. Anyway, let's move on to the headline topic of the show, ladies and gents. So first of all, the best MCU villains. There is a lot of MCU villains out there. I know people will probably say, I prefer this one, I prefer that one. This was really hard for me to pick out some of my favourites. And I'll explain when I delve into these, but I just want to talk about what makes a good villain first in the MCU. So what does make the perfect MCU villain for me personally? I think, it goes down to any villain in any movie. They've got to have like a good backstory, a good reason for being evil. But then I sort of went down that road of saying that to myself, where you have a villain where they have a reasoning to do something. But then you look at a villain like in the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, where his reason, he has no real reason for destruction. He's just an absolute madman, and he is a fantastic villain. So I kind of sort of had this in my head initially to say, a good villain is someone who's got a good story and a good reasoning to be a villain. But so I suppose that's not always the case. I think it's also down to the performance of the villain. Look, Heath Ledger stole the show as the Joker, and for me, the villains I'm going to discuss on today's show of the MCU villains, they had reasonings to being villains. They weren't so much like a Joker-style villain. So they did have that backstory, and they have that connection of a good story to why they want to do these bad acts to be a villain. But sometimes, you are going to get them ones. But I think it is all down, really, to performance of actors. I think that's where it comes down to. If you see a good performance on screen, whether it's a good guy or a bad guy, you're like, yeah, that's cool, that's awesome. And you kind of forget even the reasonings, as long as it's a good performance from that actor or actress. And I feel like with the ones I picked here today, these wouldn't be good choices without the actors behind them. And I think that's what really is the truth of it all. Whether you're having a good villain or a bad villain, it comes down to performance. And I think that's what makes a good MCU villain. You look at the best MCU villains, if you think of them in your head right now, and you look at an actor or actress, and you say, what else have they been in? And what other performances have they put out? Have they been good? And I bet you could say yes. And I bet you could say yes to most of the performances in other films, other TV shows, and whatnot. And for me, it's no different here with my choices. So I think that is for me where you get a good MCU villain, all down to the acting. Let's move on anyway. So, who are my top three villains, and who are my top three villains of the MCU, and why are they my top three? And this is a list that I've even changed this morning. This list was so hard to do. I initially had a top four, but I felt like I weren't doing justice. I felt like it had to be a top three. I will also explain, I'm not going to put Thanos in here. Thanos he's the big bad villain of the MCU. It's obvious he's the best. He's one of the best films, if not the best. And it just feels like a bit of like, oh, it's so obvious. Oh, you said Thanos. Yeah, it is obvious. So I'm not going to say Thanos. I'm going to leave him off the list, and I will get to my reasonings and what I think of Thanos as a villain later on in the show. But he is going to be off the list. He's off limits because I feel like it's just such an easy choice to make. But anyway, who are my top three? These are really in no particular order. So this isn't like 1, 2, 3. No particular order. I feel like these are all equally the top three villains outside of Thanos. And we're going to start with Loki. Tom Hiddleston's Loki. And he starred in the first Thor movie, and he's starred in tons of movies ever since. He was really the first big bad of the MCU, leading into the Avengers, the big bad villain in the Avengers movie. And Loki is similar to like a Winter Soldier type character. He's a character that has changed from good to evil throughout the movies. He's a bit of a tweener character. You never know quite where he is, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. And if I'm looking at him through the lens of being a bad guy, a villain, I think Loki is perfect. The god of mischief. He's cheeky, he's smart, he's just very snidey, isn't he, really, Loki? He's always trying to up his brother. He's always trying to up everyone else, get one over on everyone. And he is, I think it's all down, again, Tom Hiddleston is a fantastic actor. His performances from the first Thor movie wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't amazing in my book, but I could see the performances there from like Loki and from the Thor actor, Chris Hemsworth. They were great performances. And then I feel like they got better, especially Ragnarok. I've watched Ragnarok this morning just to sort of like just look at them villains again, look at Loki as a villain and as a good guy, and just to sort of like remember how good of a performance we're seeing of this character of Loki. And yeah, I like Loki. I think he was the perfect choice for the first big bad villain in the Avengers movie. He was great in that, trying to take over New York, trying to take over the world, and he's sort of like trying to, like, he wants recognition all the time, Loki, doesn't he? He's always looking for recognition. It's like he wants something, but you're never quite sure what he wants to be. Like, he wants to be king, he wants to be God, he wants to be a ruler. It's like, what does he want? I think he just wants recognition all the time. And I think that is the bottom line with Loki's character. But he's the perfect villain because you never know which way he's going to go. You can't trust him. You never, even if you feel like he turns on the side of good for a short time, a short period, you always feel like he could always turn on you. And that's what makes him really a good villain to me, because you just don't quite know with him. You don't quite know what he's going to do and what his twists and turns will be. And that's what I like about Loki the most. The next villain I'm going to go to is Hela, and she is the sister or half-sister of Loki and Thor, and she is the daughter of Odin, and she made her debut in Ragnarok, the third Thor movie, and she was played by Cate Blanchett, very good actress, actor, I don't know what you prefer. I really enjoyed this film, and I forgot how much I enjoyed it. Hadn't watched like Ragnarok in over a year or so. And Ragnarok is one of my favourite Thor movies, one of my favourite MCU movies as well. And Hela is just a great villain. She reminds me of like a Skeletor, like a Darth Vader, just pure evil. There's nothing good about her. She's just her reasoning for doing whatever she does is just because she's evil. She wants to do it because she likes seeing death. She likes to rule, but she likes to rule in an evil way. There's nothing good. There's nothing good about her at all. And maybe she's similar to. I suppose you could look at she's like similar in a way to a Joker, where she has no real reasoning. But I think her reason is she wants to just like conquer all, cause havoc, and she wants to rule. But she wants to rule in her particular way. Her particular way is just doing it as an evil lord, an evil ruler. And that's what I like about it, just the pure evilness of her, and it just makes her. I feel like there's not many like her in the MCU who are just pure evil for evil's sake. Because some of the other villains in the MCU, I'd say most of them really have actual reasonings behind why they want to conquer and why they want to do these evil acts. Hela just doesn't have reasoning, and that's what I like the most about her. And I think Kate Blanchett's performance in Ragnarok was great. We see at the end of that movie, she sort of comes to her demise. But really, I look at it, we've seen characters come back. Is she really dead? Is she going to come back? I'd love to see her in Love and Thunder. I think it'd be cool. Or if she turned up in a future Avengers movie. I think there's definitely more to that character. I'm pretty sure in the comics, I'm sure in the comics that she is like the girlfriend or the wife of Thanos. I may be wrong, correct me if I am wrong, but I'm pretty sure she is there's some sort of relationship going on between them two in the comics. I might be wrong, but let me know. Let's fact check that. Let me know, ladies and gents. But yeah, I like her as a villain. I'd love to see more of her. I think it'd be cool, especially with doing all these new TV shows now. It'd be awesome to see more of that performance. The last villain in my top 3 I want to discuss is Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. We've seen him now, he's going to feature in more of these MCU Spider-Verse movies as well. I think they're going to do like the Sinister Six, so he's going to feature in that. I think he's in the Morbius movie as well. Michael Keaton, he's went from playing Batman, the biggest good guy in town, to playing the Vulture. And I don't think Vulture is particularly the best villain of all. It's more the actual real-life character, the alter ego, Adrian Toomes, and Michael Keaton's performance of that. His story is, he's trying to do good for his family, basically. He's like selling all these parts off and making illegal weaponry and all this sort of stuff. And we just see a turn in Spider-Man Homecoming when, Peter Parker is dating his daughter, taking his daughter to the prom. And then the realization when, Peter realizes that his girlfriend's dad, the girl he's taken to the prom, her dad is the main villain of the movie, the Vulture. And he looks so evil, and he's so like, you look at him, he looks angry, you look fearful of him. And that's him when he's not got his wings on. That's him in the car, and when he knows that it's Peter Parker is Spider-Man as well, you're like, oh, this is awesome. That is an awesome performance. And again, that is all down to the performance of Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is a great actor, and he nailed it as the villain in this. Really nailed it. And that character, I want to see more of Vulture. I know we are going to see more of him. I just thought that turn in that movie, and especially that scene in the car. We all know that scene in the car where he reveals, and he sort of like threatens Peter. It's fantastic. And you look at Peter and he just looks like he's having like a panic attack. He's just like so nervous, and he's just like, oh my God. It's like the penny dropped. The realization kicks in. He's like, oh my God. I'm doomed. I'm absolutely doomed. And he is just a menacing villain. He looks a menacing look in this. Again, Michael Keaton, just A-star acting, sir. Fantastic. So they are my top 3 choices. Like I said, no particular order, but they are all in my top 3 of MCU villains. And I must say as well, there is notable mentions as well, like Killmonger from Black Panther 1, sorry. Great performance from Michael B. Jordan. He was another one I was thinking of. Mysterio was another one from Spider-Man Far From Home. Another performance. There's tons of different performances out there that I could have easily put in the top 3, but these were just ones that, I mean, I was definitely between Michael Keaton and Vulture and Mysterio. Them two were definitely two I was like swapping and changing. Mysterio was on my top three list this morning prior to having a rethink about this, and then I thought, it's got to be Keaton. I just kind of forgot about Keaton, and then I thought, yes, why not Keaton? His performance of the Vulture was awesome. But yeah, there's tons of definitely great villains out there. But they are my top three. So I've now talked about, my top three villains in the MCU, and I thought let's shift focus a tiny bit and talk about the worst villain. The worst villain in the MCU for me personally. And for me, the worst villain in the MCU is Guy Pearce's performance as Aldrin Killian, and he sort of like he names himself as the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Oh, that was bad. I've said on the channel many a times, Iron Man 3 was the biggest disappointment for me of any movie. It was so disappointing. I remember watching that in the cinemas and walking out just thinking, ugh, ugh, this film is awful. It is an awful movie. I remember hearing at the time people saying, "Whoa, this is amazing. This is an awesome movie." And I'm like, what film did you watch? And I feel like years since I've seen more reviews saying this is garbage, it's a garbage movie, and I feel like then I read them back and I'm like, oh, I was right. I was right. It was a garbage movie. I wasn't wrong. I didn't see a different movie from everyone else. I seen the right movie, but it was just a really bad movie. But Iron Man 3 was a bad movie for me. And the villain, Aldrich Killian, I had to write the name down because I couldn't even remember it because I've only watched it once or twice and I don't want to watch it anymore. But Guy Pearce is an actor I like. I like Guy Pearce. I like him in The Time Machine is a movie I really enjoy. A fantastic movie. And on paper, you'd say he would be a good villain. And I think if you repackage that villain and put him in a different movie, he'd be okay. But I think that film was just cursed. And the whole, fake Mandarin with Ben Kingsley, that storyline was just really bad. And then it was just super hokey, really cheesy when it's just revealed he's like this out of work actor who's then he's not the real Mandarin. It's just really, it was just stupid. It was such a stupid plot, really, for me. It was so silly. And when this was going to be the movie, like the end of the Iron Man trilogy, to have such a really silly ending, it didn't work out for me. And I don't think Killian, his character, was impactful at all in this movie. The way you see him going from like this, he's got like I think he got like disease. He's got like some sort of like muscle disease or something where he can't use his muscles, and then he has these injections and he turns into like this superior man. And obviously he's been injecting some sort of like super powered serum in him, something like that. I can't even remember the plot, but I just remember it being really awful. But that for me he is the worst villain in the MCU. And if you can give me a better one, a better, worse villain than that, I don't think anyone could. I don't think anyone could top his villain for being the worst. And I do not want to talk about Iron Man 3 anymore because it is a bad movie. It's a really bad movie and I want to discuss it. I want to move on. I want to move the show forward. It's making me angry. I'm getting angry. I'm getting burst blood vessels here. You probably can't see it. The hat's on. I'm getting upset and angry. Let's move it forward. So let's move forward to the big bad of the MCU, Thanos. We all know, like I said, I didn't put him in my top 3 of MCU villains because it just seems so obvious. But he's the best villain, isn't he? Best villain of the MCU. The big bad, the one that was built up over so many movies and then unleashed in the last 2 Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. Both beautiful movies. And Thanos, why is he the best villain? I think he's the best villain. Look, we had that slow build-up. We had little teasers, little short cameos. We see him in the Avengers. We see him in like Guardians of the Galaxy, I believe. And a few different movies we see him throughout leading up to his big debut in Avengers in Infinity War. And those teasers, it's shown us a little glimpses of what he can do, what he's all about. And then when you see him in Infinity War and Endgame, you see the power of him, especially in the first one in Infinity War. It is that is he's just so powerful. He's such a big guy. He's a monster of a guy. He's a monster of a villain. You know, he's intimidating. You know, you look at this big guy, alien, like big alien guy, big purple guy. He looks super menacing, and that's the first thing that gets him. But his story of, you know, his reasoning to why he wants to snap away half of the universe, the population, is because he in his brain, weirdly, he probably thinks he's trying to save the world. And that's his reasoning. And I think it works within the story, but it's just, I think there's just tons of elements that make him great. And I think it is the build up, the big battle sequences in the end game. He's a great sort of leader of this big evil army. And he's the only guy who could really take on the whole Avengers. I don't think there's another villain out there who could, you know, battle all these different Avengers and beat them all down. He is just such a tough guy, a tough villain. I think we have not seen the end of him as a villain. I hope we definitely see more of him anyway. I think with the MCU, they'd be foolish not to say like 5 or 10 years down the line, bring him back in some sort of time travel plot, or maybe bring him back as a good guy, or some sort of like a character similar to a Loki, where he is sometimes good, sometimes bad. I think it could work. It could be interesting to explore a different side of that character. But I love that villain. I love the way he, especially in Endgame, when he's sort of like, he's white, he's done the snap, he's done the click, and he's wiped out the universe. And in Endgame, at the start of the movie, he's sort of like retired, he's in that garden, and they all go and kill him. And then, obviously, we see the time travel, and then we see the younger version of him, and then we see the battle sequence. But I like that when the version when he's just sort of retired, he's just chilling out, and it's like his path is done. He had one thing he wanted to do as a villain. His one thing was to snap and wipe out half the universe. He did it. After he'd done that, it's like he was retired as a villain. And the only reason he was brought back is because of time travel. It was time travel, a previous younger version of Thanos come back. And I just found it really cool, really interesting that he had one goal as a villain and he did it. He accomplished his villainous role and his villainous objective. And even though it was reversed, he wanted to do something, and that version of Thanos did what he wanted to do. And that's what for me makes him the best villain, because he and you can say he didn't do it because obviously they changed the timeline, but he knew what he wanted to do, that version of Thanos anyway, and he did it. He snapped, he done the snap, and he done what he wanted to do. He is a perfect villain, and hopefully we will see more of him in the MCU's future. And I feel like Thanos, as being such the big bad he is the perfect opportunity to end today's headline topic of MCU villains. Thanos is the best MCU villain. That is, for me, the best one. Then I've got my top 3 behind him. Let me know your thoughts. Who are your best MCU villains? Is Thanos for you the best MCU villain? Is he the best? Who else would you have as the big bad? And it's going to be interesting now moving forward into what is like we're at phase 4 now, we're in phase 5 moving forward. Who is going to be the big bad now after that? Because we don't really know yet. We've heard like is it like Kang the Conqueror? He could potentially be that big bad villain. It's going to be really cool to see where the MCU goes. Could it be like Magneto? Maybe is it Namor? It's going to be cool. It's going to be really cool to see what they do next. So I'm really excited for that. But let's move forward with another section of the show. We're going to go for movies for the weekend, ladies and gents. And this week, I've not got them to hand, but 2 movies I want to recommend are Thor Ragnarok, because it's got Loki in, it's got Hela in, both cool villains. Watched it again, like I said this morning. That movie is so cool. From the soundtrack is done by the guy who is, I can't think of his name now, but he was the lead singer of Devo, the 80s band. They did like Whip It and Big Mess, if you know them songs. So he did the score. It was like a really cool synthesizer soundtrack. It was an awesome score. And, the mix of like the Led Zeppelin songs and stuff in there as well was really cool. But Taika Waititi, him directing that movie was great. I liked him as as Korg, the character Korg in that movie as well. It was really funny. It added it was a different style of Thor movie, and it was for me. It was like it was a reboot of that character. The first two movies were nowhere near as fun as watching this one. I like fun MCU movies. I like Guardians of the Galaxy, Ragnarok. They're probably two of my favourite ones. I think I just like a bit of humour, a bit of comedy in there as well. Just lightens it up and makes it more entertaining as a viewer, as me anyway, watching it. So Ragnarok is definitely one I would recommend as a movie for the weekend. These are movies that I suggest you to watch this weekend. And the second one is The Avengers, the first Avengers movie, The Avengers Assemble. Solely because we've got the Loki TV show on at the moment. Loki is the main villain in that movie. And you can definitely, there's a lot of links from the Loki TV show to that in that first episode to the first Avengers movie as well. So it's always cool to go back and rewatch them movies and see it from a different viewpoint and see the story again. So I would definitely recommend watching those movies this weekend. Two really good MCU movies, in my opinion. But anyway, what have I been watching this week? And as I said, I've been watching the Loki TV show, and I am... Look, spoilers ahead. Potential spoilers, maybe. I don't think there is any massive spoilers, but I will say it. Spoilers for the Loki TV show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We've got spoilers ahead. I'm just going to have a drink, guys. Right. So, look, we've had WandaVision now. We've had The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Two mixed shows. Again, WandaVision, it started off very slow for me. I felt like Falcon and the Winter Soldier was solid from the get-go. I'm a bit mixed on Loki, right? So we've got this show where it's basically him. It carries on from Avengers Endgame, where that version of Loki, he gets one of he gets a Tesseract, and he's going through time, and he gets caught by the Time Variant Authority, the sort of like the controls of time within the MCU, and no one's really aware of who these are. But these are basically, the way they put it out there is this TVA is like it's like they're the writers of the universe. They write and they make the universe what it is. They tell the stories of the universe. It kind of feels like this the telling of the stories, like the TVA is actually the writers behind the MCU. It could be like Stan Lee, and it's quite interesting. I was a bit worried going into this because when you hear time travel and stuff like this, and you hear about these like time authorities, you always kind of think, oh, I hope they don't do it too like Doctor Who. And it's not that I really dislike Doctor Who. I liked some of the I liked, what seasons did I like? I liked the Matt Smith era of Doctor Who and the first series of Peter Capaldi's Doctor Who. Really good, but after that, I've never really watched it. I didn't watch David Tennant or Christopher Eccleston or any of the earlier incarnations of Doctor Who. So I was never like I was a fan during that period, but I didn't want it to be too much like Doctor Who or like a Torchwood or like a Legends of Tomorrow. So I like the setting of it. It's like this, they're in this like sort of like, you don't really know if it's a futuristic world or where this world is in the timeline. And it's this organization who are like these agents going around different timelines from thousands of years ago to now into the future. And they are stopping variants in the timeline, in the sacred timeline, what they say. And variant is basically something that sort of delves from where the timeline should actually go. So if you have like a villain like Loki, he is classed as a variant character because he wants to control the world and stuff. He's a variant, and there's tons of different ones, but they have to go back into the timeline to readjust the settings and reset the timeline to make it into the sacred timeline. So it's very, simplistic in a way, even though it seems a bit mind-boggling. But you get what they're going with, and it's sort of, you've got Owen Wilson's character of Morbius. Agent Mobius, and he recruits. He's like throughout this episode, he's recruiting Loki, who is now imprisoned into the TVA. And at the end of the episode, it's like he reveals like, we need you to help us to stop someone. And Loki's like, who are we going to stop? And he's like, well, it's you. So the villain is Loki. So it's Loki. Is he facing a future version of himself? The way I see it, they went to like the 1500s in France, first of all. And this is where we are introduced to Owen Wilson's character. And it shows like this glass-stained window. What you see in like a church, and it wasn't a church, it was in like a chapel in like, I think it was in France maybe. I may be wrong, but it's shown this character who looked like the devil. And I've only seen it the once, so I maybe have to rewatch it and maybe I'd see something different. But what I seen there is a demon, a devil character, and I'm thinking straight away, they're looking at that character, they're making a point of zooming in on this character, that this character is going to be Mephisto. He's like the devil of the MCU. He's like Satan of the MCU in the comics. So we had like teasers of that throughout WandaVision, and I feel like this is where they're going. I feel like Mephisto could be in this. And the way they're saying it's Loki, I just feel like they've got it wrong, and maybe they think it's Loki, or it just seems it won't be Loki. Loki is not going to be the villain of this. He is going to be the anti-hero, but I don't feel like he's going to be chasing himself, or maybe he's chasing an alternative version of himself, but I don't feel like he's going to be the big bad of the series. But is it too obvious that it's Mephisto by looking at that and you see a demon character? Or does Loki turn into this demon character? Even if it isn't Mephisto, maybe Loki has some sort of transformation and he becomes this demon-like character. And he could be maybe a new, he could play dual characters throughout the MCU in the future. Who knows? But what are my initial thoughts on it? I felt mixed because it was a slow episode. I'll be honest with you. I liked what I liked. I liked it because it was interesting. It's sci-fi. I like that sort of style of the show. It had a bit of a touch of like Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to it. It was very weird humor at times, and like little things I really enjoyed is like when they've got a drawer full of the Tesseracts, the Infinity Stones, and Loki said, "Where are all these?" And they've got like multiple versions of different Infinity Stones, and it's like they're so important throughout all these different MCU movies, and now they're in this like office in a drawer, and the guy's like saying, "Oh, we use them as paperweights," and it's just like they took a massive dump on the MCU and all the Infinity Stones. I just thought it was that humorous. It felt like an extension of the humor from Ragnarok for me, especially the music as well thrown in there, very synthesized soundtrack. But the humor was very, very like deadpan humor, very like sort of like not dark humor, but it was very like very dry humor throughout. I felt I enjoyed Owen Wilson. I thought he was good. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his character. I liked Tom Hiddleston as Loki. As I said, I thought his performances were good. I feel like they're trying to show more sides to Loki as well, more humor in his character as well, which is cool, more dynamic. I'm just interested to see where the story's going because it's very vague in this first episode. You have the mention of these three like timekeepers who are the ones who are writing the universe and writing the timeline and keeping the timeline sacred. So are they going to be shown at some point? Are we going to see these three time lords, timekeepers, whatever you want to call them? It is interesting to see what's going to go on because it's I suppose it's very similar to WandaVision. After the first episode, it's like you don't really know what's going on as of yet. And it's exciting because I didn't feel like I was bored watching it. I just felt like it was a very, very slow episode and nothing much happened. But I'm intrigued to see where this series goes because I like the characters, I like the setting, and I'm just intrigued to see what happens next. I think the next episode does have to deliver on some action and some way forward to seeing where we're going to go. If they do another slow episode, then I'll be switching off a bit more mentally. Not physically, I will watch the whole series, but they need to give us a bit more, get a bit more insight. But anyway, I'm intrigued to see more, and definitely check out more of that show if you've not already watched it, and check out the first episode if you've not already watched it, and let me know your thoughts on the first episode. Anyway, that is the end of today's show. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thank you very much for watching, as always. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a like, and check out the rest of my movie-related videos along the way. And let me know who's your favourite best MCU villain. Let me know all your choices. Let me know your thoughts on my choices today. Who is the worst villain as well? Let me know your worst villain as well. And let me know what makes a good MCU villain for you. Why is your choice as a villain the best? What's the reasoning? Let me know your choice. I'm really intrigued to find out. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.